Listen to me like your life depends on it. Because in the spiritual economy of 2026, it just might, for years, you have been hearing about the shift. You've been hearing about the Great Awakening and the reset. You've been in a season of grace, a season of training, and a season of preparation. But the Father told me to deliver a heavy word to the chosen ones today. The window is closing. The grace period where you could think about it or prepare tomorrow is officially over. We are entering the final quarter of the Great Transition. There are 3 gates that have been standing wide open for the remnant to pass through, gates of financial freedom, geographical safety, and spiritual alignment. But as we move through the remaining months of 2026, the hinges of these gates are beginning to creak. The elite are accelerating their agenda, and the Father is accelerating his separation. So, if you don't move through these gates now, you may find yourself locked out of the Goshen protection when the storm reaches its peak. The book of Matthew, chapter 25, tells the story of the 10 virgins. They all knew the bridegroom was coming. They all had lamps, but only 5 had the oil. And when the shout came at midnight, the 5 who were ready went in. And the Bible says, and the door was shut. Notice it didn't stay open for the latecomers. It didn't stay open for the ones who had good intentions but no oil. In 2026, good intentions are the currency of the victim. Strategic action is the currency of the chosen. You are currently standing in the doorway, looking back at the world you used to love, wondering if you can take just a little more of it with you. The Father is saying, leave it all. Move now. The shadow of the shutting door is already falling across your path. In the United States of 2026, the illusion of normalcy is being maintained by a thin thread of digital manipulation. They want you to think you have time to fix your credit, save for that house, or wait for the next election. But the elite aren't waiting for elections. They are implementing gateways of control that will make it nearly impossible for a free-thinking chosen one to operate once the locks are engaged. The first gate is the financial gate. The second is the geographical gate. The third, and most important, is the frequency gate. If you are still trying to play the game by the old 2020 rules, you are going to get caught in the gears of the machine. The full sweep we talked about earlier is for those who are inside the kingdom perimeter. If you are still standing in the neutral zone, you are a target. The Father told me to tell you, stop negotiating with the clock. You've been saying, God, just one more month in this job, or just one more year in this city. But the Spirit is saying, the gate is moving. Can you feel the shift in the atmosphere? Can you feel the sudden urgency in your spirit that wasn't there 6 months ago? That isn't anxiety. That is divine friction. It's the Holy Spirit rubbing against your soul, trying to get you to move before the window of opportunity snaps shut. In the next few minutes, I am going to reveal the exact mechanics of these 3 gates. I am going to show you why your window ends in 2026 and what the full sweep looks like for those who make it through in time. The elite think they have successfully fenced in the human race. They think their digital ID and their social credits are the final walls. But they don't realize that God has provided escape hatches for his people. The problem is, these hatches are only accessible during a specific window of time. We are in that window. You are being called to a surgical exit from the systems of the world. This is not about fear. This is about logistics. A wise general doesn't wait for the enemy to surround the camp before he moves his troops. He moves them when the path is still clear. Your path is still clear today. But by December 2026, the landscape will look unrecognizable. Stay with me, because this is the most practical, urgent briefing I have ever delivered. We are going to look at the financial gate first. I'm going to show you why your paper safety is a lie, and how to move your resources into the kingdom vault while the gate is still ajar. The time for talking is over. The time for holding your tongue has merged into the time for holding your ground. The door is swinging. The light is fading. Are you going to be inside when the lock clicks? The first gate that is closing is the gate of financial autonomy. In the United States of 2026, we are witnessing the final phase of the death of anonymous wealth. The elite have realized that as long as you have resources, they cannot track. They cannot control your behavior. So, they are slamming the door on cash, on private transactions, and on traditional safe havens. The gate is moving toward a system where every dollar you spend is a permission-based transaction. The Father told me to tell you, your paper security is an illusion that is scheduled to expire. If you are still hoarding paper in a system that hates your values, you are essentially holding a ticket to a ship that has already been decommissioned. The window to move your resources into kingdom assets, tangible things, land, gold, and decentralized networks is closing fast. The Book of Proverbs, chapter 27, verse 12 warns us, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." In the financial realm, paying the penalty in 2026 means having your assets frozen because your social credit score dropped, or finding out your savings have been devalued by a digital reset overnight. The elite want you to stay in the burning building of the central banking system. They want you to keep your wealth in a liquid form that they can freeze at the touch of a button. But the Father is calling for a kingdom liquidation. He is telling you to take that monopoly money and turn it into kingdom capital. Build the well, buy the seeds, invest in the community of believers. Move your wealth into the Goshen economy, while the exits are still legal. Think about the gate of the Red Sea again. The Israelites didn't leave Egypt empty-handed. They plundered the wealth of the empire before they left, but they had to do it at the moment of the exit. If they had tried to stay in Egypt and keep their gold in the Egyptian banks, they would have been enslaved forever. They had to take the physical gold and move into the wilderness. Your wilderness is the parallel economy we've been talking about. The gate is closing because the elite are implementing programmable currency. This isn't a conspiracy. It's the headline of the 2026. If your money can be programmed to only spend on things they approve of, then it isn't your money anymore. It's a leash. And the Father says, I did not choose you to be on a leash. I want you to understand the window of conversion. Right now, you can still exchange your fiat currency for real-world assets without being treated like a criminal. You can still buy land. You can still fund the missions of the Remnant. But the financial gate is narrowing. New regulations are being written as you listen to this. designed to trap the wealth of the middle class inside the system. The elite are scared of the great wealth transfer because they know that a chosen one with resources is a person who can fund the revolution of light. So they are trying to lock the gate before the transfer is complete. But they are too late for the ones who are awake. If you are hearing this, the gate is still open for you, but you cannot walk through it carrying the weights of the old world. The Father is teaching you the currency of trust. In the days to come, the most valuable asset you will own isn't in a bank. It's the network of people who know your heart. It's the skills you've learned in the silence. It's the direct supply from heaven. However, as long as the gate of finance is ajar, you have a stewardship responsibility to move your Egyptian gold into tabernacle materials. Stop saving for a rainy day and start investing for a divine rain. When the gate shuts, the paper winners will become the digital slaves. But the kingdom losers, those who looked like they were losing wealth because they were giving it away or putting it into unproductive assets like land and community, they will be the only ones with a foundation. The elite want you to wait for the market to recover. They want you to trust the experts. But the Father says, the market is being replaced. The experts are being exposed. The financial gate is closing because the world system is preparing for a total reset that requires your complete dependency. By moving your assets now, you are declaring your financial independence from the beast. You are saying, "My Father owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, and I will not beg for bread from a machine." This act of moving your resources is a spiritual sacrifice of praise that triggers a higher level of protection over your life. Look at your accounts. Look at your debts. Look at your security. If it's all tied to a screen, you are in danger. The full sweep requires you to have a clean hand when the gate shuts. The Father is providing a corridor of escape, but you have to walk through it. Don't be like Lot's wife, looking back at your portfolio while the city is being judged. The value of the world's currency is returning to its intrinsic value 0, but the value of the kingdom's currency, faith, love, and truth is reaching an all-time high. In the next section, we are going to talk about the second gate, the geographical relocation. I'm going to show you why where you are standing in late 2026 is just as important as what you have. There is a map of protection that the Father is drawing, and some cities are being left outside the lines. The gate to move is still open, but the locks are being tested. Stay with me, because your zip code might be your safety code. The second gate that is beginning to swing shut is the gate of geographical mobility. In the United States and across the Western world in 2026, the concept of strategic relocation is no longer a luxury. It is a survival mandate. The Father told me to tell you, geography is destiny. For years, you have felt a nudging in your spirit to leave the concrete jungles. You've felt a pull toward the quiet, toward the land, toward the flyover states that the elite despise. That wasn't just a desire for a garden or a fresh start. It was a divine evacuation order. The elite are working day and night to turn major metropolitan areas into 15-minute cages zones where your movement is tracked, your resources are rationed, and your frequency is constantly bombarded by the noise of the system. The window to move your family to a place of refuge is narrowing, and by the end of 2026, the barriers to entry for these safe havens will be much higher. The Book of Proverbs, chapter 22, verse 3, reappears here with a physical urgency. The prudent see danger and take refuge. Refuge is a place in the Bible. When the judgment was coming, God always gave a specific location for safety. He told Noah to get in the ark. He told Lot to get to the mountains. He told the Israelites to stay inside their homes in Goshen. In 2026, the ark is the rural community. The mountain is the decentralized territory. The gate is clothing because the elite are implementing environmental regulations and zoning laws designed to keep the population trapped in the cities. They want you where they can manage you. They want you dependent on their power grid, their grocery stores, and their police forces. If you are still standing in the center of their target zone when the gate shuts, you will find it nearly impossible to exit when the storm hits. The Father says, I am drawing the map of the remnant. Have you noticed the great migration happening around you? The people of faith are moving. The independent thinkers are moving. There is a spiritual magnetism pulling the chosen ones together into pockets of protection. This is not about running away in fear. It is about strategic redeployment. You cannot fight a spiritual war from a position of total physical dependency. The geographical gate is still open today. You can still buy that small plot of land. You can still move to that town where people still know their neighbors. But the price of entry is rising. Not just the financial price, but the bureaucratic price. Soon, moving will require more than a truck and a dream. It will require permissions that the elite will not grant to the unreset. Think about the sites of refuge in ancient Israel. They were specific places where a person could find safety and justice. God is establishing modern-day cities of refuge right now. These are places where the local sheriff still believes in the Constitution. These are places where the parallel economy is already being traded in eggs, silver, and labor. These are places where the 5G towers are few and the trees are many. If you are waiting for a clearer sign to move, the Father says, the shaking of the earth is your sign. When the buildings start to tremble socially, economically, and physically, you don't wait for a second opinion. You move to solid ground. The elite want you to believe in universal connectivity. They want you to think that as long as you have an internet connection, you are safe anywhere. But in late 2026, the kill switch for the digital world will be used as a weapon of compliance. If your survival depends on a signal that can be turned off by a bureaucrat in a distant city, you are not free. True geographical safety is being in a place where you can touch the soil, draw your own water, and look your brother in the eye. The gate of relocation is closing because the elite are fencing the commons. They are buying up the farmland. They are locking down the water rights. The window for you to secure your family compound or join a remnant community is in its final hour. I want you to look at your current zip code. Does it foster dependency or independence? Does it hum with the frequency of the machine or the frequency of the creator? If the power went out for 30 days in your current location, would your neighbors be your allies or your predators? These are the hard questions of the 2026 preparation. The Father is providing the logistics of the exit. He is making the way for you to sell the overvalued city asset to fund the undervalued kingdom refuge. This is a strategic arbitrage. You are trading the virtual wealth of the world for the physical peace of the kingdom. The Father told me to tell you, do not be afraid of the lowly places. The world mocks the small towns. The media mocks the preppers and the homesteaders. Let them mock. Noah looked like a fool building a ship in a desert until the first drop of rain hit the ground. By the time the rain starts in late 2026, the gate to the ark will be sealed. The positioning is happening now. The full sweep of restoration will manifest most powerfully in the places that have been set apart. You cannot receive a kingdom harvest on Babylonian soil. In the next section, we are going to talk about the third gate, the frequency alignment. This is the most critical gate of all, because if you move your money and you move your body, but you don't move your spirit, you will still be trapped. The spiritual border is being drawn, and the interference is reaching a fever pitch. Stay with me, because your internal coordinates are what the enemy is truly after. The first two gates were about your stuff and your space. But the third gate, the one that is closing the fastest, is the gate of spiritual frequency. You can have all the gold in the world and be standing on the safest mountain in Idaho. But if your spirit is still tuned to the frequency of the world system, you are still a prisoner. In the United States of 2026, the elite have weaponized the atmosphere. Between the 5G grids, the constant digital outrage culture, and the psychological operations in the media, there is a thick layer of spiritual static designed to jam your connection to the Father. The window to tune your spirit to the kingdom frequency is closing because the noise is about to become deafening. The book of Romans, chapter 12, verse 2 commands us, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind." In 2026, conformity isn't just about what you wear. It's about what you vibrate. If you are still vibrating at the frequency of fear, anger, or dependency, you are conformed. The gate of frequency is the process of moving your internal radio dial from the broadcast of Babylon to the broadcast of Zion. The Father told me to tell you the interference is about to reach a level where if you haven't locked onto my signal, you won't be able to find it in the dark. This is why your hold your tongue season was so critical. It was meant to clear the static. Think about the gate of the mind. The elite are implementing what they call human augmentation and neural interfacing. They want to merge your mind with their machine, but long before they put a chip in anyone's hand, they put a frequency in their head. They use fear to keep you in a lower state of consciousness. Why? Because a person in fear cannot hear the Holy Spirit. Fear is a lead shield that blocks divine downloads. The gate is closing because the world is entering a period of total sensory overload. If you don't learn how to enter the secret place and lock the door of your mind now, you will be swept away by the great delusion that is scheduled for late 2026. The Father says, "I am separating the ears." Have you noticed how difficult it is to have a rational conversation with people lately? It's as if they are literally hearing a different broadcast. That's because they are. They have passed through the gate of systemic alignment, and their ears have been sealed to the truth. But you have been feeling a divine discomfort. You can't watch the news anymore without feeling sick. You can't listen to the popular leaders without hearing the lies. That is your frequency guard protecting you. The gate to align with the Spirit is still open, but it requires a total disconnect from the world's narrative. I want you to understand the momentum of deception. In 2026, the lies are becoming so sophisticated, so AI perfected, that your human logic will not be enough to detect them. The only way to navigate the coming months is through spiritual resonance. You have to feel the truth in your bones before your brain can even process the data. This is why the frequency gate is so urgent. If you are still relying on fact checkers or experts to tell you what is real, you are already lost. You must be tuned to the Spirit of truth, which operates on a frequency that the elite's technology cannot touch or simulate. The elite want you to be connected to their grid 24/7. They want you in a state of constant reactiveness. But the frequency of the winner is reflective, not reactive. The gate is closing on your ability to opt out easily. Soon, the digital noise will be everywhere in your car, in your home, even in the air you breathe. The chosen one must learn to create an internal Goshen, a sanctuary of silence within the soul that stays tuned to heaven even when the world is screaming. This is the full sweep of the mind. God is sweeping out the old trauma loops and slave programming, so he can install the royal operating system. Look at your information diet. Are you feeding the static or the signal? If you spend 4 hours on the world's feed and 5 minutes in the Word, your frequency will be Babylonian. The gate is closing because the digital wall is being built around the human consciousness. You are being called to a spiritual exodus. Just as the Israelites had to physically leave Egypt, you have to mentally leave the social media matrix. You have to stop caring about their virtual reality and start focusing on the ultimate reality. The window to recalibrate your spirit is right now. So the Father told me to tell you, the trumpet is blowing, but only the aligned can hear the note. If you are still tuned to the frequency of losing, you will hear the trumpet and think it's a warning of destruction. But if you are tuned to the frequency of winning, you will hear that same trumpet and know it's the signal for your promotion. The gate of frequency is the gate of interpretation. How you see the events of 2026 depends entirely on which station you are listening to. One station says, the world is ending. The other station says, the kingdom is beginning. I want you to practice frequency hygiene. Guard what goes into your eyes. Guard what goes into your ears. And above all, guard your vibration. If you feel yourself slipping into fear, pull back. Enter the silence. Retune. The full sweep is a high-frequency event. If your spirit is heavy and low, the sweep will pass right over you. But if you are light and aligned, the sweep will lift you to a position of authority you've never dreamed of. The gate is swinging. The static is rising. Lock onto the signal. In the next section, we are going to talk about the illusion of delay. I'm going to show you why thinking you have more time is the most dangerous trap of 2026. we're going to look at the psychology of the procrastinator and how the enemy uses it to keep the chosen ones stuck at the gate. Stay with me, because the midnight cry is closer than you think. The most effective way to keep a prisoner from escaping is not to lock the door, but to convince them that they have plenty of time to leave later. The Father told me to tell you procrastination is a spiritual assassin. In the United States of 2026, we are living in the great illusion of delay. Everything looks like it's business as usual on the surface. The grocery stores still have food even if the prices are insane. The internet still works, and the malls are still open. This is the boiling frog strategy. The heat is being turned up so slowly that the frog doesn't realize it's being cooked until its muscles are too weak to jump. The elite want you to believe that the three gates aren't actually closing. They want you to think 2026 is just another year of ups and downs. But while you are waiting for a more convenient time to move your assets, relocate your family, or align your spirit, the hinges are turning. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 9, verse 12, warns us, "Moreover, no one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so people are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them." The operative word here is unexpectedly. The snare doesn't look like a snare until it snaps. The illusion of delay is designed to make you stay in the neutral zone just one day too long. You've been saying, "I'll do it after the next paycheck," or "I'll start my spiritual fast next month." But in 2026, a month is a lifetime. The full sweep is a fast-moving storm. And if you are still packed and ready in your mind, but not in reality, you will be caught in the sweep of the old system instead of the restoration of the new one. Think about the psychology of the wait. The enemy uses the absence of an immediate catastrophe to lull you into a false sense of security. Because the sky hasn't fallen today, you think it won't fall tomorrow. But the Father says, the silence before the storm is not peace. It is preparation time. The elite are using this quiet phase to finalize their digital grids and their legal traps. They aren't procrastinating. They are working overtime while you are watching Netflix. They are moving their chess pieces into the full sweep positions while you are still debating if the game has even started. The window to act is not defined by when things get bad, but by when things are still possible. Once the financial gate is fully locked into a central bank digital currency, CBDC, it won't matter how much oil you have, you won't be able to buy the lamp. The Father told me to tell you, your later is a lie from the pit. Every time you say later, you are giving the enemy more data to track you. Every time you delay your relocation, you are giving the zoning laws more time to trap you. Every time you put off your spiritual alignment, you are letting the static of the world get deeper into your subconscious. The illusion of delay is how the simple pay the penalty. The prudent see the danger before it manifests. In 2026, discernment is not just about knowing right from wrong. It's about knowing now from never. If you feel that divine friction I mentioned earlier, it's because God is trying to break the spell of delay in your life. Look at the people who were caught in every major historical shift. In 1930s Europe, in 1970s Iran. In 2020 globally, there was always a window of opportunity where people could have moved, changed, or secured themselves. But the majority stayed. Why? Because they were waiting for it to get obvious. But by the time it's obvious to everyone, it's too late for anyone. The chosen one is called to move on revelation, not on observation. If you wait until you see it on the news, you are already behind the gate. If you wait until everyone agrees with you, you've already lost your tactical edge. The illusion of delay is the enemy's way of keeping you average. And average is the first thing that gets reset in 2026. The Father says, I am removing the safety net of the familiar. He is making your old life uncomfortable because he knows that if he doesn't push you, you will stay until the building collapses. The losses we talked about in the previous Kitchban were actually God's way of breaking the illusion of delay by taking away the old job. He forced you to look for the new economy by taking away the old friends. He forced you to look for the remnant. Don't fight the push. The push is the mercy of the exit. The gate is swinging, and the space between the door and the frame is getting smaller every second. The full sweep requires you to be in motion, not in meditation. I want you to audit your action list. What have you been putting off because you're waiting for a sign? The sign is the fact that you are hearing this message right now. The sign is the 2026 calendar on your wall. The sign is the vanishing privacy in your bank account. Stop asking for another sign and start asking for direction. Direction only comes to those who are already moving. The illusion of delay is a paralyzing spirit, but the spirit of the chosen is a spirit of vigilance. Wake up. Pack your spirit. Secure your assets. The midnight cry is not a warning of what might happen. It's a report of what is already in motion. In the next section, we are going to talk about the strategy of the narrow gap. I am going to show you the specific, surgical moves you need to make in the next 6 months to slide through the gates before they click. We're going to get very practical. We're going to talk about kingdom logistics and the exit protocol. The window is closing, but for the one who knows how to move, it's still wide enough. Stay with me, because the how-to of your survival is the next priority. When the gate is wide open, everyone can walk through. But when the gate is closing, only the one who knows how to shrink their ego and speed up their movements can make it through the narrow gap. The Father told me to tell you, the time for mass migration is over. It is now the time for surgical extraction. In the United States of 2026, the elite are looking for big moves. So they are tracking large financial transfers. They are monitoring major group movements, and they are watching for anyone who stands out too much in the digital space. To slide through the narrow gap before the 3 gates click shut, you must learn the art of the quiet exit. This is not about a loud protest. It is about a silent repositioning. It is about making small daily sub-adjustment that sometimes, when combined, move you entirely out of the target zone while the system still thinks you are compliant. The book of Proverbs, chapter 6, verse 5, gives us the tactical blueprint. Free yourself. like a gazelle from the hand of the hunter, like a bird from the snare of the fowler. A gazelle doesn't stop to argue with the hunter. A bird doesn't try to fix the snare. They simply remove themselves. Your surgical move for the next 6 months is to reduce your systemic footprint in the financial gate. This means don't wait for a market peak to sell the assets that tie you to the world system. Sell them now, even if it's at a loss in their currency, because you are gaining freedom capital. In the geographical gate, this means start making scouting trips to your place of refuge now. Don't wait until you have a moving truck. Start pre-positioning supplies, tools, and connections. The narrow gap requires you to be light. You cannot carry the grand piano of your old lifestyle through a closing door. Think about the tactics of the remnant. While the world is distracted by the latest political scandal or the newest digital toy, the chosen one is working on decentralization. The elite want everything centralized: your money in their banks, your food in their stores, your thoughts in their algorithms. Your counter move is to decentralize your life. Get your water from a different source. Get your information from a different frequency. Get your community from the secret place rather than the public square. The narrow gap is the space between their control and your independence. By moving in small steps, you don't trigger the alarms of the system. You are like a shadow moving through a room of sleeping giants. By the time they wake up and lock the gate in late 2026, they will find that the chosen remnant has already vanished into the wilderness of the new economy. The Father says, simplify to amplify. The reason most people will get stuck at the gate is that they are too heavy. They are weighed down by their debts, their expensive subscriptions, and their need to keep up appearances. To get through the narrow gap, you must become vibrationally light. Shed the material things that serve as anchors to the world system. If that house in the city is the reason you can't move, sell it. If that luxury car is the reason you're stuck in a toxic job, get rid of it. The full sweep of restoration cannot reach you if you are still holding on to the trash of Babylon. The tactics of the narrow gap require you to prioritize utility over luxury. A bag of seeds in 2026 is worth more than a designer watch. A trusted neighbor is worth more than 1 million followers. Look at the exit protocol of the Spirit. When God called Lot out of Sodom, he told him, don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. This is the non-stop protocol. Once you start your move spiritually, financially, or physically, do not hesitate. The enemy uses second guesses to widen the distance between you and the gate. He uses the comfort of the plain to make you stop before you reach the mountain. But the plain is where the judgment falls. The mountain is where the protection lives. Your surgical move is to be decisive. If the Spirit says, move your savings, do it within 24 hours. If the Spirit says, call that brother and apologize, do it now. The narrow gap is closing at a constant velocity. Your speed of obedience must be faster than the gate's speed of closing. The elite think they have the narrow gap monitored. They have their eyes in the sky and their eyes in the wire. But they cannot see a move that is motivated by divine revelation. They can only track rational behavior. When you move because of a 3 a.m. download from the Father, you are behaving irrationally by their standards. You are selling when they say buy. You are leaving when they say stay. This makes you invisible to their predictive models. They're A. I cannot calculate a heart that is led by the Holy Spirit. This is your greatest tactical advantage. Use the narrow gap of 2026 to disappear from their social credit radar. Become a nobody in their system so you can be a somebody in the kingdom. I want you to create your 6-month extraction plan, month 1 audit, all dependencies. Where are you leaking power to the machine? Month 2, liquidate the hedge. Turn paper into physical reality. Month 3, secure the coordinates. Establish your physical or communal base. Month 4, disconnect the noise. Clear the spiritual frequency. Month 5, finalize the alignment. Ensure your family is on one accord. Month 6, the silent leap. By the time the headlines of 2027 start screaming about the total digital lockdown, you will be watching from a place of peace, already settled in your Goshen. The Father told me to tell you, I am the door. If the world's gates shut on you, remember that I am the one who opens doors that no man can shut, but he is also the one who shuts doors that no man can open. The gate of worldly opportunity is shutting to protect you from the world's judgment. The narrow gap is your birth canal into a new life. It's tight. It's uncomfortable. It feels like you're being squeezed. But on the other side is the full sweep of a world made new. Don't fear the squeeze. Fear the stay. In the next section, we are going to talk about the separation of the remnant. I'm going to show you how to identify your strike team in the next 6 months. You are not meant to go through the narrow gap alone. We're going to talk about the magnetic pull of the chosen ones. The gate is moving. The gap is small. But for the gazelle, it's just enough. Stay with me. One of the greatest deceptions of the enemy is to make you feel like you are a lone wolf. The system wants you isolated because an isolated warrior is easier to break, easier to track, and easier to silence. But the Father told me to tell you, the narrow gap is not a solo mission, it is a tribe migration. In the remaining months of 2026, as the 3 gates continue to close, you are going to experience a phenomenon I call spiritual magnetism. You will find yourself being pulled towards certain people and repelled by others. This is not just social preference. It is a divine sorting. God is separating the remnant Dong Dai Sat Lai from the multitude. He is bringing together the ones who have the same oil in their lamps, so that when the doors shut, you aren't just safe bandang o tromot kongdong kakanang tu vanhanes. The book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 3 asks, do 2 walk together unless they have agreed to do so? In 2026, agreement is no longer about having the same hobbies. It's about having the same survival frequency. The gate is closing on casual relationships. You are being forced to leave behind those who refuse to see the closing door. It's painful. Yes. It's difficult to realize that some people you've known for years are choosing to stay in the boiling pot. But you cannot carry their weight through the narrow gap. If you try to drag someone who wants to stay in Babylon, you will both get caught in the hinges. The separation of the remnant is a mercy. It lightens your load so you can move with the speed required for the full sweep. Look at how the Father is assembling your strike team. Have you noticed how you are suddenly crossing paths with people who have the exact skills you lack? You have the vision, they have the land. You have the spiritual depth, they have the technical off-grid knowledge. You have the resources, they have the kingdom logistics. This is not coincidence, it is kingdom assembly. The elite have their global forums and their secret societies. But God has his magnetic meetings. While the world is losing the ability to connect authentically due to AI and censorship, the remnant is developing a heart-to-heart communication that doesn't need a signal tower. The gate is closing on the social media matrix, but it is opening on the table of fellowship. The Father says, "Look for the mark of the seal." In the coming months, you will be able to recognize another chosen one just by the look in their eyes. There is a weight of truth they carry. There is a calmness in the chaos that identifies them. While the rest of the world is screaming and reacting to the headlines of 2026, the remnant is quietly talking about the plan. They are sharing seeds. They are exchanging silver. They are praying for blueprints. The narrow gap requires you to be part of a decentralized network. The elite want you in their centralized web. But God is weaving a spiritual net that covers the earth. This net is strong enough to catch you when the systems fail, but flexible enough to slide through the gap. I want you to audit your inner circle. Who are the people that increase your oil? Who are the ones that drain your frequency? The gate is too narrow for vampires. It's too tight for those who bring the drama of Egypt into the freedom of the wilderness. The separation of the remnant means you must be willing to be misunderstood by the majority so you can be aligned with the few. In the United States of the 2026, popularity is a trap. Privacy and proximity. To the chosen is the new power. Find your tribe. Build your parallel circle. Because when the financial gate clicks shut, the only currency that will work is trust. The Father told me to tell you, I am the master matchmaker. I am pulling the hidden ones out of the woodwork. I am introducing the Josephs to the Pharaohs who have hearts for God. I am linking the Ruths to the Boazes. The narrow gap is a filter that keeps out the infiltrators. Only those who have been stripped and reset by the Spirit can pass through. This ensures that the community on the other side is pure. The full sweep is not just for an individual, it's for a nation within a nation. You are being drafted into a kingdom military that doesn't wear uniforms but carries the same spirit of the winner. Don't mourn the friends who call you crazy. Don't chase the family members who think you've lost it. Their blindness is part of the great illusion of delay we talked about. Your separation is your sanctification. It is God setting you apart for a specific function in the new era, as the gates of 2026 close. The remnant will become a city on a hill. While the world's cities are drowning in noise and control, your remnant pockets will be glowing with the frequency of Goshen. The gate is moving. The separation is deepening. Hold the hand of the one next to you who sees what you see. You are going through together. In the next section, we are going to talk about divine logistics provision in the lockdown. I'm going to show you how the Father resupplies his people when the world's gates are finally locked. You will learn that the end of the world's supply is just the beginning of the king's inventory. The gap is getting tighter, but the manna is already being prepared. Stay with me. The greatest fear people have about the 3 gates closing is the fear of scarcity. The system uses this fear like a weapon. They say, if you don't pass through our digital gate, you won't be able to buy or sell. You won't have food. You won't have energy. But the Father told me to tell you the end of the world's supply chain is the beginning of the King's logistics. In the United States of 2026, as the financial gate clicks shut for the non-compliant, you are going to witness a return to biblical economics. When the gates of Egypt were locked against the Israelites, God didn't ask Pharaoh for a grocery permit. He opened the sky and rained down manna. He didn't ask the local utility company for water. He spoke to the rock. The full sweep includes a total takeover of your supply lines. Shema. The book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 19, is your operating manual for 2026. And my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in glory in Christ Jesus. Notice the source, riches and glory, not riches in the Federal Reserve. The world's logistics are based on just-in-time delivery, which is fragile and easily manipulated. God's logistics are based on just-in-spirit provision. As the gates close, you will experience spontaneous multiplication. You will find that the little you secured in your place of refuge lasts 10 times longer than it should. The oil in your jar will not run dry. The seeds in your soil will produce a harvest that defies the local climate. This is not magic. It is the physics of a higher kingdom overriding the limitations of a collapsing one. The elite think they can starve the remnant into submission. They are tracking the calorie flow and the data flow, but they cannot track the raven flow. Remember Elijah at the brook Cherith. The gates of the economy were shut by a drought. There was no food in the markets. There was no water in the wells. But God commanded the ravens, the most unlikely couriers, to bring him bread and meat every morning and every evening. In late 2026, your ravens might look like a Nejibur who suddenly has an abundance they want to share. It might look like a glitch in the system that redirects resources to your door. It might look like an old investment you forgot about suddenly becoming liquid at the perfect moment. The divine logistics team has been preparing for this lockdown for centuries. The Father says, I am bypassing the middleman. For too long, you have relied on the middlemen of Babylon, the banks, the big box retailers, the government agencies. By closing the gates, God is forcing you to deal directly with him. This is a strategic upgrade. When you deal with the Father, there is no inflation. There is no social credit check. There is no censorship. The narrow gap is the passage where you leave behind your dependency on the grid and enter your dependency on the glory. In 2026, the chosen one will be the most relaxed person in the neighborhood, while everyone else is frantically checking their apps to see if their digital credits have been approved for a loaf of bread. You will be sitting at your table, breaking bread that was provided by a miracle. I want you to understand the currency of the lockdown. When the gates are shut, numbers on a screen lose their power. The true currency becomes favor. Favor is the universal key that opens the supply closets of the world. You will find yourself getting unlimited access to things that others are being denied. A store manager will give you the last item just because. A local farmer will set aside a portion for you before the government buyers arrive. This is the mark of Goshen in action. It is a divine protection over your consumption. The Father is ensuring that his strike team is well fed, well equipped, and well rested for the mission ahead. Look at your preparation not as a hoarding of goods, but as a staging of assets. You are setting the stage so that the Holy Spirit can perform the multiplication. You provide the 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he provides the feeding of the 5,000. The gate is closing on the self-made man, but it is opening wide for the God-sustained man. Your window to stock the pantry is almost over. Not because God can't provide, but because he wants to see if you will obey the instruction to prepare. Once you've done your part, the divine logistics take over the rest. The elite want to create a cradle-to-grave dependency on their system, but they are about to find out that you cannot starve out a person who feasts on the word. They cannot freeze out a person who carries the fire of the Spirit. As the geographical and financial gates lock in late 2026, the vertical gate will be your primary supply line. You will learn to download solutions. You will learn to manifest needs. The full sweep is a restoration of the Garden of Eden reality, where the earth responds to the voice of the righteous. I want you to release the poverty spirit that tells you there won't be enough. That spirit is the static of the world. Tune into the frequency of abundance. The king is not broke. The kingdom is not in a recession. The gates are closing to trap the simple, but they are also closing to insulate the prudent. You are being locked in with God, not locked out from your needs. The lockdown of the world is the shut-in of the saints. In the next section, we are going to talk about vanquishing the fear of the end. I'm going to show you how to turn your urgency into power instead of panic. We are going to dismantle the doomsday narrative and replace it with the day of the Lord victory. The gates are almost shut. The gap is nearly gone. But the Father is already on the other side, holding the master key. Stay with me. The system's most potent weapon is not the digital lockdown or the closing gates. It is the narrative of fear. The elite want you to look at the closing window of 2026 and see a doomsday clock. They want you to feel the panic of a trapped animal, because a panicked person cannot think strategically, cannot hear the Spirit, and cannot act with authority. But the Father told me to tell you, this is not the end of your story. It is the end of your captivity. The end of the world, as they describe it, is simply the end of the world system that has been sucking the life out of your soul for decades. Vanquishing the fear of the end is the final requirement to pass through the narrow gap. You must stop mourning the death of the Matrix and start celebrating the birth of the kingdom era. The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, is the emergency frequency for 2026. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Notice the order. Power comes first. Fear is a frequency that demagnetizes your authority. If you are afraid of the gates closing, you are still giving the gatekeepers power over your emotions. But when you realize that the closing gates are actually divine filters, keeping the chaos out of your new reality, the fear vanishes. The end is not a wall. It is a threshold. As the gates of 2026 click shut, they are effectively locking the enemy out of your Goshen. You aren't trapped with the world. The world is trapped away from you. Think about the psychology of the Exodus. When the Israelites stood at the edge of the Red Sea, they were terrified. They saw the sea in front of them and the chariots behind them. They thought it was the end. But Moses said, Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord. What they thought was their graveyard was actually the graveyard of their oppressors. The end was only for the Egyptian system, for the chosen ones. It was the opening of the new way. In late 2026, the globalists will be the ones in panic. Their systems will be failing. Their narratives will be crumbling, and their reset will be glitching. While they are screaming, you will be standing in the sound mind that only comes from knowing the architect of the gates. The Father says, I am resetting your concept of time. The elite want you to feel out of time. They want you to feel the urgency of the damned. But you have eternal time. The window of 2026 is closing on the old opportunities so that the new mandates can be activated. You aren't running out of time to prepare. You are running into the fulfillment of your preparation. Every asset you moved, every relocation you made, and every frequency shift you practiced was not just for survival. It was for deployment. You aren't hiding in a bunker. You are being stationed in a forward operating base of the kingdom. Fear is for those who have no plan, but you have the master script. Look at the doomsday headlines with the eyes of a winner. When they say financial collapse, you hear wealth transfer. When they say social unrest, you hear spiritual hunger. When they say the end of privacy, you hear the beginning of divine secrecy. By changing your vocabulary, you vanquish the fear. The 3 gates closing is the best news of your life. It means the tug of war between you and the world is finally over. The rope has been cut. You are no longer struggling to be in the world, but not of it. The gate has made that distinction for you. You are now officially, legally, and spiritually set apart. I want you to embrace the heroic perspective. You were born for this specific window. You weren't born for the easy times of the 1990s or the stable times of the early 2000s. You were forged for the high-pressure window of 2026. You are the generation of the narrow gap. The Father wouldn't have given you the hold your tongue instruction or the full sweep blueprints if he didn't know you could handle the squeeze. Your fear is just the ego trying to stay relevant. Kill the ego, and the fear has no place to sit. The end is simply the moment the caterpillar realizes it's a butterfly. It's a death to the crawl, but a birth to the flight. The elite think they can use AI-generated fear to keep the remnant paralyzed. They have simulations of disaster and projections of famine, but they cannot simulate the peace of God. They cannot project the intervention of angels. While the world is watching the end of the world movie, you are the one who knows the director. You've seen the behind-the-scenes footage. You know that the fire coming to the earth is a refiner's fire, not a destroyer's fire for the chosen. The gate is closing on the scoffers, but it is opening on the overcomers. The Father told me to tell you, peace is your tactical advantage. In 2026, a calm person will be worth more than 1,000 experts. Your lack of fear will be the magnet that draws the lost and the broken to your door. They will see that your gates are closed to the system, but open to the spirit. They will see that you aren't losing. You are leading. The fear of the end is the last chain of Babylon. Break it today. The window is not closing on you. It is closing behind you to protect you. In the final section, we are going to talk about the final charge and activation. I'm going to release the seal of the prudent over you. We will conclude this briefing with the exit decree that will propel you through the narrow gap. The gates are moving, the hinges are creaking, but the sound mind is already victorious. The full sweep is waiting on the other side. Let's pass through. This is the final transmission for the window of 2026. You have heard the breakdown of the 3 gates. You have felt the weight of the financial transition, the urgency of the geographical relocation, and the necessity of the frequency alignment. You have identified the illusion of delay, and you have received the tactics of the narrow gap. Now, there is only one thing left to do. Step through. The Father is not looking for people who understand the times. He is looking for people who command the times. He is looking for those who will take this briefing and turn it into a physical, spiritual, and financial reality. The gate is moving. The space is small. But as you move, you will find that the Father is thinning your path and stretching your resources. You are being activated right now as a pioneer of the new era. The book of Joshua, chapter 3, verse 4, gives us a final instruction for the threshold. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. You are entering a territory that has no map in the world system. The full sweep is a journey into the unknown, but you are not going alone. The seal of the prudent is being placed upon your forehead today. This seal is a spiritual marking that tells the gatekeepers of this world, do not touch. This one belongs to the King. It is a marking of divine immunity. As the gates of the world system shut in late 2026, this seal will grant you passage through the back doors of the Spirit. You will find provision where others find poverty. You will find peace where others find panic. I release the final charge over your life. I charge you to be decisive. No more second-guessing the divine nudge. I charge you to be disciplined. Guard your frequency like it is your life support system. I charge you to be diligent. Secure your assets. Move your family and build your community while the narrow gap is still visible. The window of 2026 is a gift of time, but it is a gift that must be opened now. The full sweep is the reward for the one who refused to wait for it to get obvious. The King is at the door. The hinges are turning. The activation is complete. We have reached the end of this tactical briefing, but it is only the beginning of your execution. You have the intel, you have the strategy, and most importantly, you have the Father's favor. The meaning of the 3 gates is simple. God is separating his people from a system that is no longer sustainable. He is calling you to a higher level of sovereignty because he has a mission for you in the new world that is being born. The lesson for 2026 is that your safety is not found in the familiar, but in the obedient. If you stay where it's comfortable, you stay where it's vulnerable. If you move where it's narrow, you move where it's eternal. The elite think they have the final say over your movement, your money, and your mind. But they are about to find out that a chosen one who is aligned and positioned is a force they cannot calculate. You are the ghost in their machine, and the full sweep is your victory lap. If you are ready to pass through the narrow gap and secure your destiny, comment 999 right now. Let that number be your seal of commitment. If you have already started your relocation or your financial exit and want to share your Goshen experience, comment 1. We need to hear the testimonies of the remnant to strengthen the body. Or, if you feel the illusion of delay has been broken in your life today, leave a message for the community. We are moving through these gates together. And finally, subscribe to this channel. Every video we release is a piece of the 2026 puzzle. Don't miss the next briefing because the gates are moving fast. And you need to stay updated on the kingdom logistics. Share this video with one person who is still waiting for a sign. You are that sign for them. Stay decisive, stay positioned, stay chosen. The gate is closing, but the kingdom is opening. I will see you on the other side.